a new Conservative chapter. By the end of the summer, the Conservative Party of Canada will have a new leader for the fourth time in 2 tumultuous years. The key question, what direction will the party take? Candace Bergen has been the interim leader since February after the majority of the Conservative caucus voted to remove Aaron O'Toole. But the current leadership race to replace him has been nasty and divisive with allegations of cheating, fights over membership numbers, and debate over what it means to be a Conservative. Now, in the past week, over 20 Conservative MPs met with some former leaders of the trucker protests. So what kind of party is it right now? Let's find out. Joining me now, the interim leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, Candace Bergen. Good to see you.
Thanks, Evan. Good to see you.
There's lots left. I know your mandate ends September 10th. As Parliament rises, the big issue is inflation, 7.7%, the highest it's been in 40 years. The Conservatives have called for suspending the GST tax. Now, that would give consumers relief at the pump. But I did speak to the parliamentary budget officer a few days ago, and he said, look, it wouldn't materially lower the inflation rate. It would help consumers a little, but it wouldn't. What, in your view, in your party's view, would materially lower the inflation rate?
Well, we realize there are some factors that have happened globally that have affected inflation, but we also believe that this government's fiscal policy overall has poured gas on it, certainly prepared it to be worse than it had to be. So we believe strongly that spending has to come under control. We were very clear in the last budget that we didn't think more spending and bigger programs was the answer. So overall, we'd like to see a strong signal and actually action from the government that they're going to stop this out of control spending. But we do believe giving Canadians a break at the pumps would be positive and also show that they recognize taxing Canadians and just to benefit themselves isn't the answer.
Let's just talk about the spending a bit. What's particularly your party supports trying to reach 2% of NATO, so there's defense spending. They spent 4.9 or 4.6 billion on upgrading NORAD. There's defense spending. Your party's talked a lot about the fact that provincial systems have healthcare systems that are in trouble. There's more in the last election. There's more spending there. What spending? Those are big ticket items. What spending would the Conservatives not do?
We've seen a lot of waste. First of all, there's been a lot of waste. I mean, buying a pipeline when they didn't need to buy a pipeline. Over the last 7 years, there's been a lot of wasteful, bad spending. Then add to it big government programs. They promised the dental program, which is provincial jurisdiction. So there's over the last 6 years, 7 years, there's been a lot of spending that we think is wasteful. And I mean, let's talk about infrastructure. Let's talk about infrastructure spending,
I'm just intrigued,
okay.
Just on the dental program, because I know you didn't agree with it. I'm just intrigued when you say, is that a wasteful spending? There's definitely an issue for low-income people.
It sure is. If you want to help.
Is it wasteful spending
the way
to
the
support
Liberals
that?
do it, yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the Liberals are not good at getting money out to where it's needed. It does end up helping some of their friends and the folks that are working with them. This is provincial jurisdiction. The federal government will not do a good job of delivering a dental program. And, I think that we've even heard from dental associations, for example. So, yes, I will go out on the record and say that I think that whatever program they're going to try to put together will not be successful. It will not get to the people who need it, and it will end up wasting a lot of money.
There's a lot of criticism of the central bank monetary policy that they should have eased back their quantitative easing strategy earlier. In your view, did the central bank and the governor blow it on holding inflation to 2%?
I think there's definitely legitimate criticism of that. That was something that we were talking about back when COVID first hit. Definitely, I think that that's something that is a valid criticism and that governments and opposition should be talking about. But overall, our job is to criticize the government, and I think the government has made a lot of mistakes in terms of our fiscal policy.
Right now, the Conservatives are calling for the resignation of Marco Mendicino, the public safety minister, over the Emergencies Act, right?
Over his misleading Canadians.
Yeah, well, that's it. Do you think when
Yes.
he said, I was acting on the advice of police, that he willfully misled Parliament? Do you think he did?
He didn't just, he's a former prosecutor. He understands how important words are. He understands it's important to be precise. He didn't just say it once. He didn't just say, one time we talked to police and they suggested. He used it as his argument more times than I think we can even recall or try to bring up on media, for example. This was one of their main arguments. Police were asking for it. We've now found out that is not true. That's not the only area where he misled. He said that there was foreign funding funded the protests. That wasn't true. They made accusations against the protesters that they set fires in apartment buildings in Ottawa. That was not true. Marco Mendocino basically said a lot of things. He was very loose with the truth, spread misinformation. But on whether the police asked for it or not, that was vital. That was key. And he misled Canadians.
The police said they didn't ask for it, but they needed it. And so I spoke to Steve Bell, and he said he needed it. He said it helped, but he didn't ask for it.
But you don't bring the Emergencies Act because it helped. There is a very high threshold for invoking the Emergencies Act on Canadians. We've always said that we did not believe that the government would meet that threshold, and we are seeing now by the fact that they misled Canadians that they probably have not met the threshold. And what he has also done is he's discredited not only the committee work that's happening right now, but there's going to be an inquiry that's happening. That is being discredited when the Minister of Public Safety is so loosely able to change the facts.
Let's talk about that, because just in the last week, over 20 members of your party met with one person, James Topp, who was not part of the trucker convoy. I've spoken to him. He's a veteran. He's marched across Canada about mandates. But they also met with a guy named Tom Marazzo, who was a spokesperson, also a veteran, by the way, who I've spoken to. This is a guy that stood in a press conference during the convoy and said he'd like to work in a coalition with your party, the Bloc, the NDP, to try to form a government. He's unelected, so he is essentially supporting that memorandum of understanding. What does it tell Canadians that someone like you were with the truckers who took pictures, many of your members, and now here we are, 20 members, almost 20% of your caucus is out there essentially saying, as one member said, we're allies, you have their support. What does that tell you?
We very much support Canadians who were and still are against the mandatory vaccines. We don't believe that they should be wedged, called names, stigmatized. We don't think they should be set aside. Our job is to listen to Canadians. We don't always have to agree, even with what they're talking about. We don't agree with everything that they want to do.
But don't you lend credibility to people who are holding press conferences that are trying to say we want to form a government that would not be democratically elected?
Evan, these people obviously did not understand. I don't think any sedition charges were laid, were they? They were not.
But it doesn't have to be. But there are lots of charges laid against some of the.
But I think this is the misinformation that's being spread. The people who protested here in Ottawa there were, as you know, hundreds and thousands of them. They were upset. They wanted to be heard. And we as Conservatives believe that they deserve to be heard. And we wanted the Prime Minister to listen to them.
I'm just asking because it's true. I was out there. There's lots of Canadians that were here for lots of different reasons. But there are also lots of leadership, some of them who were supported, that actually were organizing, collecting money based on that memorandum of understanding that you know.
Let me be very clear. We absolutely 100% support people who did not want mandatory vaccines. We are very much opposed to wedging, dividing, calling them names.
Did you support people who parked their truck illegally? I'm just trying to figure out.
We absolutely did not support any illegal actions, but we support 100% individuals. We support Canadians who want to be heard by their Prime Minister.
Okay, just last question. So you would condemn people who are parking their truck for 3 weeks outside?
We told them that they should only protest legally, yes.
Okay, I want to talk about the RCMP, the investigation into the worst mass murder in Canadian history. The commission investigating that recently put out notes from Superintendent Campbell, who said he was in a meeting in the days after the horrific shooting. And in his notes, he said that Brenda Lucki, the commissioner of the RCMP, said that she had promised the Prime Minister's office and the Minister of Public Safety that she had said, we need to release the information about the perpetrator's weapon. He said, no, it would jeopardize the investigation, and he didn't do it. Do you think that there should be an independent investigation into Brenda Lucki because the minister has denied he ever said that, the Prime Minister has denied he's ever said that? Who do you believe?
Well, this is a pattern with this government. They've interfered in investigations before when it was to their political advantage. So, again, I'm not here to hold Brenda Leckie to account. I'm here to hold the government to account. I believe the superintendent when he says that Brenda Leckie told him and his officers that they needed to relay a certain message because she was obligated or had told the government that she would help them with their political agenda. It's very disturbing, it's concerning, and frankly, I don't believe the government when they say they didn't interfere or they didn't use this.
So what needs to happen?
Well, we're talking about, and we'd like to see the committee, the House of Commons committee investigate it, look into it. I'm very happy to see that. But I am concerned, Evan. I'm concerned because we've seen the NDP support the Liberals. We've seen the Liberals filibuster. They've done it whether it was the WE scandal, whether it was S&C. Right. So we'll start there. We'll start there and see where it goes.
Okay. One more thing on the trucker. There's going to be a protest again with some of the same people on Canada Day. Will you go out and meet them and support them?
No, I'll be in Halifax.
Will
you be out there? I won't.
I will. I'll be reporting on it.
I'll be in Halifax. I'll be.
Will you? Would you tell your MPs that they're free to go? I
support peaceful and legal demonstrations, and if my MPs want to be there, they're free to do whatever they want, and they'll answer to their constituents.
Recently, now you're the interim leader.
Actually, we don't have a term called interim leader. Yeah. I'm the leader in the interim.
You're the leader. Okay, you're the leader of the. In a recent post, a senior member of your party, Michelle Rempel, who's been a critic, Michelle Rempel-Garner, wrote why she didn't decide to run to replace Jason Kenney, and she wrote like this, almost 3,000 words, and she said in both parties, the United Conservative Party of Alberta and the Federal Party, there have been squabbles that have erupted in the pages of national media, public meltdowns, nearly missed physical fights, coups, smear jobs, leaked recordings, confidential emails, lack of consensus on critical issues, caucus turfings, people harassed to the point where they resign roles, hour-long meeting where members have been subjected to hours of public castigation, heated exchanges to get to basic concerns, unjustified insularity, exclusionary cliques. She said in other workplaces this would be treated as a violation of labor codes. What do we make to believe that? Michelle Rempel-Garner is describing what's going on in your party like that. What is your reaction? Is that accurate?
I'm absolutely shocked. You'll have to ask her. I'll tell you, we have had an amazing last 6 months. And even when we do disagree, and there's been squabbles, but my message to caucus is we can disagree and still be united. I think this message, even in Canada, Evan, we see this politics of wedge divide, identity politics, and I've been very, very open in our party. Let's not do that. Let's let each other have different opinions on different issues. And you're going to have to ask Michelle.
So you don't think it's
accurate? You'll have to ask Michelle. She said, no,
so
we've had an incredible.
Okay, so you don't think
we do want to be in government because we want to be. We want to help Canadians. We want to help Canadians. I've not experienced that.
Okay, so that's not an accurate depiction.
It might be hers. It might be her. I cannot speak. Come on, Evan. I'm not going to speak for Michelle. You have to ask her.
The United States Supreme Court just overturned Roe v. Wade on Friday. This is a significant moment. What is your reaction to that, and what is your reaction on the potential Canadian impact on that?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, nothing has changed in Canada. This is something that's going on in the U.S., and I understand it. I think it stirs up a lot of feelings on many sides on this issue, and I would say there's not just one or two sides. This is a very, very difficult issue, and as a woman, I can tell you it stirs up feelings of emotions, good feelings, bad feelings. It's not just about our reproductive health; it's about our heart and our soul and our emotions. But Canada, nothing has changed. And I will tell you this, under previous leaders, Stephen Harper, every leader I've run under, we have made the commitment that Conservatives would not bring up the abortion issue or change laws. It's only Trudeau that wants to do that. So I think a lot of people have had enough of politicizing the issue. I believe we should be helping women. I really believe that we should be supporting women who are not just going through difficult times around unwanted pregnancies, infertility, not being able to have a baby, or there's a whole multitude of reproductive issues that are so deeply personal, and people have such a huge variety of thoughts and feelings around it. So right now, I think people are feeling that today on every side of this. But to politicize it or use it to get more ratings or anything like that, I think people have had enough of that. And as the Conservative leader and as a Conservative leader in my caucus, I will continue to work to help women, to help families, to unite people, and not wedge and divide on the backs of Canadians.
All right, I got to leave it there. I know we'll have more conversations before September 10th. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.